I really dreaded making this video, and I waited about as long as I could today to try and make it without any sort of anger or frustration or any of the pain that comes through with this change coming through in the things that I'm about to say. If you're here from Behavior, please at least listen to the things I have to say and take it seriously. If you're here because you like Xenomorph or you main Xenomorph, please listen as well, because this change impacts you pretty severely. There's no doubt about it. If you're here specifically just to hear about how bad the Xenomorph changes are, they are now a bottom 10 character in the game. They're like mid-low C tier at best, C+ tier maybe in the hands of somebody who's like a top 5 player in the character. Not only did the changes I feared that would come through in the dev update prove to be just as strong and as big as a nerf to the character as I expected they would be, but there was also a lot of other aspects of the character that also got nerfed as well that makes it even worse than what we thought it was going to be in the dev update. Before we get into the meat of the changes and exactly why things are so bad, I would ask you guys that either now or at the end of the video, please use DBD's social media to try and help them to get rid of these terrible changes so that Xenomorph players can still enjoy the character and people that are looking to get into the character can still play them, because these changes make them one of the clunkiest and most visually and sensorily overloading characters in the game, bar none. So please try to reach out to Behavior, whether it be on their Twitter, their Reddit, their DBD forums themselves. Please try to do that one way or another. Please try to do your part, because especially with a brand new character release, a very popular one at that, coming out at the exact same time, it's very likely that the massacring of this character will go under the radar, and that would be the worst possible scenario. Yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So first off, I want to talk about how many times you're going to be getting burnt out of your power, because if you're not somehow familiar with the changes, essentially you almost never lose your flame charges now. Flame charges now take 15 seconds before you're actually able to lose flame charges after you get them, and even after you have the ability to start losing your flame charges, they only go away at 2 charges a second. Keep in mind, you can get up to a maximum of 174 charges in the PTB before you actually lose your power at 175. So you would have to wait 15 seconds at 174 and then 2 charges a second after the fact. We have done the math multiple times between multiple streamers and players, and that roughly ends up to about 103 seconds before you lose all your charges. 103 seconds. And before those of you who don't understand how this character works say, oh, just get in the tunnel, forehead, the tunnels do not get rid of the charges. I've been seeing this fairly frequently amongst people, not only in DBD streamer spaces, but on DBD Twitter, saying, oh, just if at least they can get into the control stations and get rid of it. No, you can't. What happens when you get into the control station is that your charge regeneration goes up from 1 charge to 8 per second, which is really good in most scenarios, but you don't get rid of charges at that rate. Your heat dissipation, as it's officially called, is something completely different. Put some numbers to this instead of just my feelings. For reference, usually on 1 day of play in Dead by Daylight in the live version of the game, before these changes go through, I get burnt out of my power 2 or 3 times. 2 or 3 times a day. And that's because there's actually a sizable skill ceiling to the Xenomorph, to learning how to deal with turrets, how to avoid turrets, and deal with them. That is just part of learning the character and getting good at the character. When I played the PTB today, I counted the amount of times that I got knocked out of my power, and according to what I kept track of, I got knocked out of my power 17 times. Got knocked out of my power 17 times. So we went from losing your power 3 times a day to 17 times a day. The problem, if you're unaware, if you've not watched my last video where I feared the changes that we were going to get for the Xenomorph, essentially, if you guys have ever run into the double turret setup, the faded double turret setup, where the Xenomorph doesn't really have any sort of counterplay or anything they can do about it unless the survivors place the turrets too close, you run into these turrets, and over time you get so much sustained charges from the 2 turrets right next to each other that the Xenomorph is essentially always knocked out of its power without any counterplay. Now, since the heat dissipation takes 15 seconds to even get started and then only goes at 2 charges a second now, but essentially any turret that is within 2 to 3 tiles of the other turret, these 2 become double turret setups. But now, in addition to double turret setups lacking any counterplay, now single turret setups kind of lack counterplay, because now you don't lose your charges at a rate that makes any sort of sense or something you can do anything about. So as a result, you just end up having to build charges, and build charges, and you are essentially hard locked into losing your power around 3-ish times a game, which is extremely detrimental. The name of the game with the Xenomorph is no longer, can I get good at dealing with turrets that way I can keep my power and have good and efficient chases, to when am I going to lose my power because there's nothing I can do about it. And there's plenty of suggestions people have had to try and get around this, which quite frankly don't make a whole lot of sense. Like, oh, just lose your power on purpose and go into a control station and charge faster in the tunnels. Control stations spawns off of off of killer belongings, which we all know and has been well documented is very RNG based and often leads to very, very disastrous placements based on just how wonkily the whole killer placement thing works in accordance with the chest spawns. So realistically, leaving chase already every single time you lose your power is also not realistic, because then you just lose all your pressure right away. So that's not a realistic expectation. But on top of that, a control station is not always available to do this, especially on indoor maps like Midwich. Your closest control station could be 3 rooms away, because you have to go through a room, upstairs, around, back in, and then into the control station just to get your power back. It's not a realistic solution to this problem at all, and I don't know why people keep recommending it. And you might be saying, Brand, but they added a lot of buffs. The buffs basically are the bare minimum effort they could have put into adding anything to this character at all, and I get the very nasty feeling that they're only there to throw people off of their trail, that they're just trying to bury this character into the dirt. Every sort of add-on change that they got was a numbers change that did not matter. It was an adjustment of 1 or 2 seconds or 5 seconds, or oh well, the duration of this is better, or the range of this is slightly better. All of this was a marginal change to the add-ons. The only add-on change that mattered was the multi skin add-on, which is formerly Xenomorph's worst add-on. Now that lasts 30 seconds, so you may actually get value out of that, but that is still only a may get value out of it. If anything, we lost one of the best Xenomorph add-ons in Emergency Helmet. It went from a 35% resistance to the Flame Charge Stagger all the way down to 15%. So if you're one of those people that hated the fact that Xenomorph is over-reliant on turret add-ons in comparison with the buffed turrets, along with your add-on for dealing with it being far less, thankfully Lambert Star Map is still the same way, you were actually more hard-locked than ever into running flame turret add-ons, because now, because you are going to be losing your power so much, you will have to try and resist it as much as you can while you still have it. If you want to stay your power as much as possible, you definitely have to run Lambert Star Map. You still have to run Emergency Helmet. It's absurd. It is absolutely absurd. It's so puzzling, because with other characters like Nemesis and Pyramid Head, BHVR said, oh yeah, we don't like how they only rely on like 1 or 2 add-ons. We're eventually going to change that, while simultaneously creating a change that hardlocks Xeno into turret resistant add-ons for the rest of their life cycle. It is insane. And it gets worse. All of the buffs that Xenomorph got, the buffs are just outright either marginal or lies. The buff that probably helped, like that I like the most out of the buffs that they got, is that they come out of the control stations quicker. The issue with that is because they sped it up so quickly, it looks like a bug. It looks super janky the way you just like insta speed out of the tunnel. And for some reason, I don't know if this is a bug, it probably just is, but like your head shoots straight into the sky whenever this happens, every time you come out of a tunnel. So every single time you come out of a tunnel now, you have to manually drag your camera back down, because for some reason, whenever Xeno flies out of the tunnel, he's looking straight up every single time. And so you have to do that little camera lower every single time. The Killer Instinct I talked about in the previous video is that the Killer Instinct range got upped from 12 meters to 16 meters. And like I said in the last video, this is largely useless unless you're specifically using it to find rats, because you already get 16 meters of footstep reading when you're in the tunnel. So you are already under the impression of where somebody is within 16 meters already if they were moving. Like I said, the only way this comes into aid is if you're trying to catch a rat with this. So you basically already have this ability. So this is not a meaningful buff. Another buff they had, and this is very, very recent, we are still investigating this one, is the miss cooldown buff. It's supposed to help you when you hit objects or you miss your tail attack. Isn't working, evidently. I will show the side by side right here, but this is the one on the left is the PTB and the one on the right is live. There's not a difference there. I remember playing today in the PTB wondering like, why this doesn't feel like it's that much better, but maybe I'm just like really thrown off by the, you know, new tail wind up, which we will get to that. And maybe I'm just placeboing that it's not there. No, it evidently, according to this, is not there. It is just not there. So we're not even actually getting that buff at all. So that's cool. And for those of you saying, hey, well, the Xenomorph went from 100 charges to 175 in the crawler mode to help resist turrets. That doesn't matter when the turrets are as strong as they are. The Xenomorph would have to have like a 300 or 400 charge pool to avoid turrets in the immense buffed state that they are in now. So that is not a big help. Yeah, the point being is that the buffs we got handed, the add-ons, marginal changes, didn't really matter too much. And the buffs that we got to compensate on the Xenomorph either are negated by one of the nerfs, actually aren't functional or outright lies, or they're just not really that big of a deal or are bugged. Like, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. But speaking of the tail attack charge that we brought up recently, the tail attack charge speed has been something that people have lamented about the Xenomorph for quite some time. So we got up from 0.2 to 0.35. The issue being is that for some reason in the PTB it is not 0.3, it is 0.75. I'm sure if you guys have actually watched somebody play the Xenomorph today, or if you're looking at the B-roll, you're like, that doesn't seem like that's 0.35, because it's not. Multiple people have tested today, including myself, and it is closer to 0.75. Other people have gotten higher numbers than that. Like I said, this is very recent, this is very new, but what seems to be the most consistent is 0.75. It is definitely not 0.35. It is abysmally slow. That tail attack is abysmally slow. It is almost worse. I would say not even almost. It is worse than if you're lagging, because I'm sure if you guys have played Xenomorph on a buggy server, or you yourself have a high ping, that the tail attack takes forever to come out for whatever reason. It's worse than that. It is absolutely worse than that. For reference, if you want to take another numbers look at how bad it is, I actually went through all of my games, watched them on fast forward for my last live stream of Xenomorph, and I had an 80% hit rate with my Xenomorph tail attacks. Whenever I was intentionally going for a hit on somebody and I either hit or missed it, I had an 80% success rate. On the PTB, I had a 63% hit rate. There are absolutely hits that you can just no longer go for. There are hits that you can absolutely no longer go for, because your tail attack windup takes 3 to 5 business days to reach the survivor. It is awful. It is absolutely awful. There's also a litany of bugs out there, but I'm not going to go too in depth with them. Like, for some reason, when your charges are about to completely overwhelm you, like you're about to lose your power, you can't tail attack when this happens to try and last minute swipe the turret. I don't know if that's on purpose. I hope it's not. I hope it's just a bug, but that would also be extremely detrimental. This is a Skull Merchant level kneecapping of the character. And here's the problem with that. This change is worse than the one they did to Skull Merchant. And I'll tell you why. Because Skull Merchant was nerfed into the dirt on purpose, because there's the promise that it will get better at some point. This is happening with zero expectation that this will ever be fixed or rectified at any point. They promised, hey, the Skull Merchant thing, that's not permanent. It's gonna suck for now, but that's not permanent. There is no indication or anything to believe that these changes will be ever changed at any point. So this is a kneecapping of the character that we are just gonna be stuck with. It is crazy how many people I'm seeing on DBD social media be like, oh yeah, you know, this PTB, absolute dub. When Skull Merchant got buried into the dirt, even with the promise that it was going to be fine and they were going to fix it someday, people were losing their minds. This is the most quietest massacring of a killer we've ever seen. The most silent death of a character we have ever seen. They're going to slide it in with Tokyo Ghoul, so everybody has all this fanfare for the first anime killer in the game, and nobody is going to see just the absolute massacre of this character. It is absurd. So where are we at after this? Where do we go? First off, I want to say, like I said, if you are somehow someone who is at Behavior, who has somehow landed with this video, none of the flame turret changes should go through, and you should absolutely fix whatever wonky thing is going on with the tail attack. Something with the tail attack changes you did not go into the PTB correctly. It is not 0.35 seconds. The miss cooldown is not working. Something is very wrong with that. I don't know if that's a bug or if that's on purpose, but something is very wrong with that. You need to fix that. Second, every single flame charge related change cannot go through. This is another thing that I had failed to talk about, and I'll talk about that right here. The vignette that you have when you're under the effect of the flames, like the flame turrets throw flames on you and you get this little vignette that's like smoky and it has embers on it, that does not go away for the entire duration that you have flame charges. It does not go away for the entire duration that you have flame charges. I cannot tell you how many tail attacks I was trying to hit today that I just like literally couldn't see the survivor at the corner of my screen because there's just the smoky flame stuff all over it. And that smoky flame stuff wasn't going to go away for like another minute and a half. There were people that were watching my stream that were telling me that they were getting nauseous just looking at it. I can't imagine what it's like to play it. It became a running meme at a certain point in my stream. Was like, hey, Brandon, did you know you're on fire? Hey, Brandon, did you know you have flame charges? Brandon, did you know you're on fire? Because the vignette would stay there for like minutes at a time. It would be a funny joke when I pick somebody up and they'd be like, oh, thank God the vignette's gone. There were people that were so Stockholmed by this whole situation. They were like, hey, at least picking them up gets rid of the vignette. Do you imagine? Do you imagine that right now? You have people looking at the bare minimum and going, oh, thank God. That is how badly you have done this killer dirty. People are looking at the bare minimum, not having a very ugly, distracting vignette on your screen for a full minute or more and going, oh, wow. At least doing the bare minimum makes it go away. What have you done? What did you do? Yeah, like I was saying, none of the flame turret changes could go through. And anything related to heat dissipation, the flame turret, what the Xenomorph having to do with the flame turret, none of that can go live. None of that. None of that. None of it can go live. It makes the character one of the most clunky, frustrating, nauseating, not interesting characters to play in this game. There are so many characters in this game that have far stronger abilities who aren't even top 5 that don't have their power taken away. You know, recently we decided to look at EMPs in Singularity, a very, very strong A tier killer, and make EMPs slightly worse. But we're going to look at Xenomorph, who is a B tier character at best, and we're going to make his flame turrets one of the strongest built-in counterplays in the entire game and drop them down into the bottom 10 killers in the game. For what reason? I don't know. You know who also barely has their power in the game? Oni, but we took out his flicks, and we're also, you know, Xenomorph, but also Oni is one of those characters that can also, even without the flicks and an entire game and one use of his power, the Xenomorph could never do that. Not even get close to doing that. So it doesn't make sense to make it to where you're barely in your power, that in a power that isn't already very good, and then adding on top of it that it has been massively nerfed in this version of the character. Dracula can be out here with 3 fucking powers, by the way, none of which have any sort of cooldown besides just the short time it takes to switch between them. But yeah, Xenomorph can't have their mediocre B tier ability for too long. That's too unfair and OP. So he has to be a bottom 10 character in the game. There are people out here hellfiring, wolfing, and doing the little bat fly around thing. But yeah, screw me with the tail attack. I can't have that for too long. This is a overheat Billy level destruction of a character. And it's funny because that's who I mained before this character. I can't avoid this. Behavior keeps looking at my characters and just doing this. I don't know why. Please stop. Please quit doing this to me. If you're watching this and you are somehow in some sort of like position of power or something you can inform people at behavior or something like that, and you know for whatever reason behavior is just like stick in the mud, just will not completely roll back these changes, you gotta make the heat dissipation like stun thing, like before you get the ability to lose charges, you gotta make that really short, like really short. And then you got to make the charges like much faster, at least 20 charges a second. And then maybe give Xenomorph more charge space. That is the only way this even begins to work. But quite frankly, it was a bad idea to begin with, and it shouldn't have hit a B tier character of all things. I'm going to say this, and I was just going to leave this out of the video because like, I don't think it's very constructive, but when have I ever shied away from speaking my mind, for better or worse? These changes read like somebody at behavior personally does not like Xenomorph. Like somebody at behavior faced Xenomorph and said, I'm done. I cannot do this. I don't like this. And it's going away. Because this feels mean-spirited. This feels targeted and this feels mean-spirited. And if you are that person and you somehow find this video, I'm more than happy to show you the things you can do to face Xenomorph. I will sit down and I will personally coach you on the things you can do to have better Xenomorph games. I'm not doing that as a compromise. I'm not doing that to like kiss ass. I mean, like, I will help you, because this is not the way. This is not how we fix our problems, by taking this character who has such a history in media as being one of the most iconic horror characters of all time, and just making them one of the most miserable things to play in your game. I will help you. And if you somehow find me, I will do that for you. I will keep my word. But please don't make this character not only extremely weak, but also extremely frustrating and unfun to play for everyone. So where do we go from here? What do I go from here? My main character, and I've done everything I can to try and teach people how to play this character, including writing that over 300-page guide. Where do I go? What do I do in this situation? And where do we go as Xenomorph mains in general? I will say with absolute certainty, I will not be leaving this character regardless of the changes. I'm going down with the ship. Like I said, and I've said many times before, Aliens vs. Predator was the first horror movie I was ever allowed to watch, and is what I am thankful for that got me into horror, and ergo allowed me to play horror games, which led me eventually to you guys. And this has been one of the best experiences I've ever been able to have in anything, being able to make content for you. And I will continue to do Xenomorph things for you. I will rewrite the guide in any section that needs completely rewriting. I will make any numbers changes that needs to be made. It will probably take me a while, but I will remake whatever needs to be made. I will be there with you. I will work through it with you, and I will not give up on you. Any sort of tips videos that need to be made, I'll make them. I have to obviously remake the add-on and perk tier list at some point that I literally just made, because those are outdated now. So I will be doing everything I can to help out with that. If you're just here at the end of the video after hearing me yap for a while and you just want a final verdict, yeah, the Xenomorph is C tier. They are maybe even low C tier. They're unfortunately a bottom 10 character in the game. They're another one of those characters that kind of has the archetype of, I sort of have an anti-chase ability, but because I'm losing it so often, I kind of don't. So really, mostly what I lean on is my map mobility. That's kind of where they're at. I don't think they're bottom 5, but they're definitely bottom 10. And that's a shame for a character that wasn't even that great to begin with. And for those of you at home who are just like, wow, haha, your character got nerfed, or oh, haha, that's really, really lame that you care so much about this. It could happen to you. If we okay this, if we sanction this, and we say, yeah, hunky-dory, it will do this to any killer they feel like deserves it, regardless of if they do or not, because Xenomorph certainly didn't deserve it. So you could be next. Your favorite killer could be next. And I bet you won't like when it happens to your character. But yeah, like I said, in a constructive way, make sure that you guys reach out to Behavior, whether it be on their Twitter, their forums, their Reddit. That's like the main areas that they like to listen to, and try to sway them as much as you can to not go through with these changes, because they will absolutely massacre the character, make them an accessibility nightmare, and also make them overall feel terrible to play, not only as, but against, because I was testing a lot today with my friends in the custom games, and they said that their chases were boring, because it's quite literally like all you do is place turret, run to turret, place turret, W to turret, place turret, W to turret. The gameplay, the counterplay was so linear that they weren't having a good time. And I've heard that plenty of times for different survivors on different characters, where like their main counterplay is the built-in counterplay. They find it just kind of milquetoast, that they just have to play the game the exact same way every single time, all the time. And that's what you've done with this character. So not even survivors want it. Not even survivors want it. Yeah, like I said, I'll keep reiterating. Please make sure you reach out to Behavior on their Reddit, on their forums, and on Twitter. That is where they most pay attention. There was thankfully finally a message they sent to someone in response. I think it was on their Reddit, where they said, we will continue to monitor these changes and see if they fit, or something to that extent. I'll throw that on the screen there. In response to somebody saying that the Xeno changes can't go live. So please continue to pressure them. Please make them know that this is like 100% unanimously something that we all agree on that they cannot do. We got to take our stand for this. If Behavior, I'm going to say this, especially if somebody from Behavior has somehow caught this video. If you really want to be that company that listens, you really want to be that company that now has completely turned around and is known for listening to its community, caring about its community, do this for us. And if you don't, I'll read the writing on the wall. Now know where you really stand. Because I know a lot of people out there have said that you're just trying to shape up nice for FNAF coming in. That accusation is out there. And I've been telling people like, that's kind of harsh. The ball's in your court now. You show me what kind of behavior you are now. Because if you send this through, I know exactly what kind of behavior you are. And I won't forget it. And nobody who plays Xeno will either. It's your choice. Sorry, not really a positive video today. There's not much really positive to talk about with this. I don't know if I'll make a video about the Tokyo Ghoul, perks and the character and all that stuff. I'm also just not in a good mood. So I might like wait a little bit on that. I also want to get a little bit more hands-on experience with it since I only played a couple games as and against. So yeah, that video will come if it comes, but thank you so much for listening. Please try to do what you can to stop this from hitting the live servers, and I appreciate you so much. And regardless of how things end with these changes, I'll still main the character and I'll still help you. So yeah, what did you guys think of the very interesting and problematic Xenomorph changes that we tried out in the PTB? Let me know down in the comments below. But other than that, it's gonna be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, friends. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one, but if I do not, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.